Chapter 21, Heavenly Constellation Golden Body. The Unstoppables fan. I have to tell my master about this. What you're doing can really scare disciples like me to death. Hanj shook his head. He was really speechless. Cultivating divine arts in the middle of the night, acting mysterious. Just now, he really should have directly killed this great Grand Elder's essence soul. Don't. I was just playing around for a moment. I apologize to you. I'm sorry. The great Grand Elder hurriedly said. Amused, Hanju asked, "You know my master?" Cough. Actually, your master is my disciple, so is the current sect master. The great Grand Elder held his head high proudly. However, Hanj remained expressionless. The great Grand Elder's smile immediately faded. "Does he not believe me?" Hanj said. "Then, I'll pretend that nothing happened tonight. You can leave." "Really? No worries." The great Grand Elder immediately turned around and left. He had just taken a few steps when he suddenly turned around and asked, "Boy, I see that you're very talented. Do you want to inherit my legacy?" Hanj raised his eyebrows and asked, "What legacy?" "I'll impart to you an unparalleled cultivation technique. The Heavenly Constellation Golden Body. Do you want it?" "In the entire Jade Pure sect, only the sect master and I know it." "Heavenly Constellation Golden Body? Sounds impressive." Hanj's eyes lit up, but on second thought, he hesitated. It wasn't even a pleasant encounter. Why would this old man teach him a cultivation technique? It must be a trap. Trying to trick me? Hanj shook his head and said, "Never mind. Thank you for your kindness, sir." The great Grand Elder's smile froze again. With a cold snort, he swung his sleeves and left. An hour later, Hanj left the cave abode and flew towards Jade Serene Hall. He stopped in front of the front gate and knelt. As the gate burst open, Hanj quickly walked in. "Why are you here so late at night?" Fairy Zixuan asked with her eyes closed. Hanj knelt in front of her and told her everything that happened. Fairy Zixuan opened her eyes and frowned. She was displeased. "This damned old man is restless again." "You almost killed him?" Fairy Zixuan asked curiously. Hanj scratched his head and said, "Was cultivating a divine art, so I can only block it." "That's not important." "Master, will he come and harass me again? I don't want to be afraid every night." "Don't worry, I'll go find him tomorrow. If he dares to come again, I'll deal with him myself." "Thank you, Master." "No worries." Hanj heaved a sigh of relief. He could finally relax now. Before he left, he asked curiously, "Master, is the Heavenly Constellation Golden Body powerful?" He wanted to teach me this cultivation technique. "Yes, it can be said to be the strongest cultivation technique of the Jade Pure sect. It's even more powerful than Jade Pure technique. However, before cultivating it, one needs to cut off one's roots." "What root?" "The thing that makes you a man." Hanj wanted to curse. I knew it. That old man was up to no good. Wait, does this mean the great Grand Elder and sect leader have already? Hanj discovered a shocking fact and felt his worldview shattered. "This matter cannot be spread," Fairy Zixuan said solemnly. "I understand." Hanj bowed and left. After returning to his cave abode, Hanj was still thinking about the Heavenly Constellation Golden Body. No wonder even though Li Qingtsai liked Fairy Zixuan, the two of them did not become companions. "They're even more extreme than me. They both stay away from women by cutting their own." Hanj was impressed. At the same time, he labeled the great Grand Elder as untrustworthy. The next morning, Hanj headed towards the inner sect city. The battle of the top 10 in the inner sect assessment would officially begin at noon. The inner sect assessment was different from the inner sect competition. The inner sect assessment was a way to become an elite disciple, and one could register freely. The inner sect competition was a competition between the 18 peaks, and the ranking was a motivation for each peak to work hard. The battle arena had already been built, located in the square inches the center of the city, 300 meters long and wide. There was already a huge crowd around it. Many disciples were flying on their swords and floating in the air. It was a very spectacular sight. "Junior, you're finally here." Excited, Shang Yue immediately ran over. More than 10 disciples from Jade Serene Peak gathered around to cheer him on. Hanj frowned when he saw so many people. With so many people around, How am I supposed to act? Should I be more straightforward? Defeat them immediately? Hanj hesitated. Suddenly feeling a gaze settle on him, he turned around and saw Zafan staring at him with a burning gaze, full of fighting spirit. Hanj was baffled. When did I provoke him? Zafan recalled Mo Fuchu's words that in this inner sect assessment, his greatest opponent was Hanj. Mo Fuchu said that Hanj had always been hiding his strength and was not inferior to elite disciples. Because of this, Zafan had always treated Hanj as an imaginary enemy. He didn't understand Hanj. With outstanding aptitude and stunning looks, why did he keep such a low profile? He heard that Moza had taken a liking to him, but Hanj had been avoiding her. The more Hanj kept a low profile, the more Zafan felt sore. However, I already have a powerful trump card. He's definitely not my match, Zafan thought firmly. At this moment, Mozu suddenly appeared before Hanj and said excitedly, "Brother Han, I believe you will definitely take first place." Shang Wei asked warily, "Who are you?" Mozu looked back at her. They were obviously unhappy with each other. Hanj saw that their conflict was about to erupt and felt that something was wrong. "Husband." Hearing a burst of laughter, Hanj turned around and saw Xing Hongxuan. Shang Wei and Mozu both turned to look. Crap. Its Mars crashed into Earth. Hanj immediately turned and left. He had to leave the dangerous situation. However, the three women didn't follow him. Instead, they walked together and began to oppose each other. The surrounding disciples were envious of Hanj. Being good-looking makes him truly fearless. With so many beautiful juniors admiring him, he doesn't even care. This is a crime. At noon, the inner disciples' assessment officially began. The person presiding over the assessment this time was the Heavenly Thunder Peak's old immortal Taoist Thunder. The elders of the other 17 peaks did not come. The spectators were ordinary elders, deacons, whole masters, and so on. More than 2,000 inner sect disciples and mortal slaves came to watch the battles. Although there weren't many inner sect disciples, there were many mortal slaves in the inner sect city. Hanj was participating in the very first match. When his name was called, he immediately went on stage. Hanj of the Jade Serene Peak versus Zafan of the Heavenly Thunder Peak. Whoosh. The moment Zafan's name was announced, the audience erupted. Recently, Zafan was the most famous disciple in the inner sect. He could be said to be the biggest black horse. Rumors had it that he had a trump card that could defeat anyone instantly. He was undefeated in every battle and totally unstoppable. Zafan cupped his fists and smiled. "Brother Han, you must do your best this time." Hanjua asked expressionlessly, "Really?" "Really?" Zafan raised his right hand, and a small black bell appeared in his palm. It was eerie and mysterious. In a nearby pavilion, the elders and deacons all frowned. They had long heard that Zafan had a powerful secret weapon, a Dharma treasure. It was a birth Dharma treasure. What was a birth Dharma treasure? One that would be created at the birth of its owner. They were the legacy of his ancestors. Even if he had little potential, his ancestors would give him providence. Owners of birth Dharma treasures were usually successful. Upon seeing this treasure today, they all felt that it was extraordinary. Zafan might really get first place in this inner sect assessment. Chapter 22, Obtaining the Numinous Treasure, Golden Cicada's Mystic Divine Robe. Seeing how confident he was, Hanj decided to get serious. Zafan must be defeated before he could demonstrate his power. That was the only way to minimize the impact. If Hanj defeated him when Zafan released all his power, it would only show that Hanj was even stronger. In that way, he wouldn't be able to keep a low profile anymore. With so many people watching, it was impossible for Han Li to delay until everyone left. After his decision, Hanj walked towards Zafan. Mozu said with a solemn expression, "Zafan's birth Dharma treasure is very strong. Because of this treasure, Master made an exception and took him in as a personal disciple." Shang Wei disdainfully said, "He's no match for Junior Han." Xing Hongxuan didn't say anything. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on Hanj. Zafan had a confident smile on his face, but seeing Hanj walking straight towards him, he still felt inexplicably flustered, because he had often heard Mo Fuchu brag about him. Slowly, he felt that Hanj was very strong. "Today, I will defeat him and prove my strength. Watch carefully. I'll make you regret it and let you know that you've underestimated me." Zafan thought about it silently. When he thought about that smiling handsome face, He was furious. He raised the small black bell, preparing to display his power. A crazed smile appeared on his face. So what if he's gifted? Today, I, Zifan, will defeat this gifted cultivator. Swish. A blinding sword flashed, causing Zifan to subconsciously close his eyes. Boom. Zifan was sent flying, vomiting blood. He was like a kite with a broken string, blown out of the battle arena. Silence. Everyone was silent. Everyone was stunned. They had yet to recover from their shock. The battle ended so quickly. Even old Immortal Dao Thunder, who was overseeing the inner sect assessment, widened his eyes. Hanj retracted his technique, and the sword shadow behind him quickly disappeared. It only appeared for less than 2 seconds. He turned and bowed to old Immortal Dao Thunder with cupped fists. Old Immortal Dao Thunder came back to his senses and announced, "Jade Serene Peaks Hanj wins." Boom. The crowd burst into excitement. The male disciples discussed and the female disciples stared at him with glowing eyes. So fast. See, Zifan is just mediocre. Hanj was too strong. Who is Hanj? When did such a genius appear in Jade Serene Peak? He's so handsome. Could he be the one the female disciples often discuss? Hanj quickly left the stage and disappeared into the crowd. Since the battle arena wasn't destroyed, the second battle soon began. Zifan was helped out of the crowd by a group of Heavenly Thunder Peak disciples. There was still blood at the corner of his mouth. His face was pale and his eyes were lifeless. He seemed to have lost his soul. The blow was too great. He didn't even know how he lost. But the moment he was hit by the 3 pure shadow sword technique, he sensed imminent death. He knew that Hanj could have killed him. One moment, he was still full of confidence. The next moment, he was off the platform. Zifan wished he could dig a hole to hide. He knew he had become a joke. Chang Weya, Xing Hongxuan, and Moza tried to look for Hanj but couldn't find him. He hid amidst the crowd and watched silently. 2 hours later, the top 5 were decided. The 5 disciples would draw lots to decide who would skip the next round and head straight to the top 3. The disciples didn't have any objections. At this stage, the difference in strength wasn't great. Everyone could be in the top 3. Luck was an indispensable thing on the path of cultivation. Hanj hesitated. If he became one of the top 3, maybe he could just give up straight away. In any case, the top 3 could choose the connate cave abode. That's it. This way, his influence would be minimized. He prayed silently. Hanj with the Jade Serene Peak is going to the top 3 straight away. The other 4 disciples looked at him with envy and vigilance as old Immortal Taoist Thunder made the announcement. They had all witnessed Hanj defeating Zifan in a flash. This fellow didn't use much of his spirit energy and was still in his peak state. Hanj was overwhelmed with joy as he quietly walked off the stage. Chang Weya and the other 2 immediately surrounded him, preventing him from escaping. "Junior, you have a good chance of getting first place this time," Chang Weya said excitedly. Mozu and Xing Hongxuan were also very excited. They all admired Hanj and naturally hoped to see him in the limelight. Hanj shook his head and said, "I can't. It's already not easy to come this far." Zifan, who was making his way over, almost fainted when he heard that. He still wanted to ask Hanj what kind of spell he had used to defeat him, but he ended up hearing such words. Zifan was so angry that he spat out blood. The disciple in front of him was sprayed full of blood. Zifan quickly turned and left. Hanj turned around to see, but Zifan was already gone. The next 2 matches were intense. Equipment, magic, movement techniques, and talismans. All sorts of things appeared. The 4 disciples were all rounded and on par with each other. No matter who was the final winner, they still put on a good fight. The top 3 were finally on stage. The 3 of you will each fight 2 more rounds with different opponents. The one who wins twice will be the first, a win and a defeat will be the second, and losing twice will be the third. Old Immortal Taoist Thunder explained the rules. Hanj suddenly raised his hand and said, "Elder, I admit defeat. Previously, in order to quickly defeat my opponent, I exhausted all of my spiritual energy and have yet to recover. Let the 2 of them fight it out. I'm willing to be third." Whoosh. Everyone was shocked. Chang Weya and the other 2 girls also widened their eyes. Zifan was stunned when he heard that. Really? If that wasn't the case, Why would Hanju admit defeat? So I'm not that weak. Zifan's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 2 stars. When Hanj saw the words in front of him, he said in his head, "This guy is nuts." Old Immortal Taoist Thunder stared at him and then nodded. He changed the rules, and Hanj was ranked 3rd. Hanj immediately got off the stage. The following fight was less exciting than the previous ones. Both of them had consumed a lot of spiritual energy. Hanj felt that he could have taken on both of them together. In the end, the top 3 were decided, and the inner sect assessment ended. The top 3 followed Old Immortal Taoist Thunder to main peak. On his way the flying on his sword, a line appeared before Hanj. You entered the top 3 in the inner sect assessment while keeping a low profile. You will obtain a numinous treasure. Congratulations on obtaining a 7th grade numinous treasure, Golden Cicada's Mystic Divine Robe. Golden Cicada's Mystic Divine Robe, a 7th grade numinous treasure that can automatically defend against an enemy's attack. It can defend against up to a blow from a soul formation realm cultivator. If you inject spirit energy into it, its defensive power will increase. Hanj raised his eyebrows. Defending against a blow from a soul formation realm cultivator. So powerful? It was indeed a numinous treasure, stronger than equipment and dharma treasures. A 7th grade numinous treasure. Could there be 6th grade, 5th grade, and up to 1st grade numinous treasures? How powerful would a 1st grade numinous treasure be? Hanj guessed silently. He was in a good mood. This was too satisfying. After obtaining the Golden Cicada's Mystic Divine Robe, he felt very safe, and he was going to get a connate cave abode. It was a very fruitful inner sect assessment. Once he wore the Golden Cicada's Mystic Divine Robe, he would be able to cultivate in peace and wouldn't have to worry about sneak attacks. Soul formation realm cultivators were few in number. Hardly one appeared every century in the Jade Pure sect. However, the Golden Cicada's Mystic Divine Robe could only protect him. If he ran into a nascent soul cultivator, they wouldn't be able to kill him, and neither would he be able to kill them. Hanj couldn't help but smile. Why are you so happy to be in 3rd place? Did fairies eggs you and tell you to only fight for 3rd place? Old Immortal Taoist Thunder suddenly asked. The 2 disciples in front turned to look at Hanj with strange expressions. They weren't stupid and also felt that Hanj's surrender was too dubious. However, it was also good news for them, so they didn't question it. Chapter 23, Obtain a Connate Cave Abode. New target is Golden Core Realm. Hanj replied, I'm not happy because of getting 3rd place, but excited to come to main peak for the first time. Master never told me to stop at the top 3. I haven't been in Jade Serene Peak for long. Although I became her personal disciple, Master said that as long as I do my best, it's fine. Old Immortal Taoist Thunder snorted in obvious disbelief. Zifan was his personal disciple, and Hanj admitted defeat right after beating him. Hanj was obviously not giving Heavenly Thunder peak face. But as an elder, Old Immortal Taoist Thunder couldn't lash out at him. Hanj smiled politely at the other 2 disciples. The 3 of them didn't talk much, and it wasn't suitable for them to talk at the moment. Before long, they arrived at main peak. Old Immortal Taoist Thunder introduced them to Taoist Jinxu and left. The top 3 participants of the inner court assessment this time will be promoted to elite disciples. Besides that, all of you can choose a connate cave abode. The 1st place will get to choose first, Taoist Jinxu said expressionlessly as she inconspicuously glanced at Hanj. This kid actually managed to reach the top 3, looks like Xuana wasn't mistaken. He's indeed talented. The 2 disciples weren't surprised. Clearly, they already knew about the connate cave abode beforehand. Taoist Jinxu waved her right hand, and the images of 3 connate cave abodes appeared. The 3 abodes surrounded the edge of a mountain range. Hanj took a glance and guessed that it was a map of the Jade Pure sect. Are they making us security guards? Hanj ridiculed in his head. The 3 cave abodes nicely surrounded the 18 peaks. Nevertheless, a connate cave abode was too attractive. It was like a free spiritual pool. It was still acceptable. Now that he had the Golden Cicada's Mystic Divine Robe, he wasn't afraid of any danger anyway. Taoist Jinxu began to introduce the 3 cave abodes. The first was rich with fire and wind spirit chi, the second was relatively abundant with water, fire, and wood spirit chi. The last had spirit chi of all attributes, but each only as rich as in a usual spiritual pool. There were no surprises. Hanj was left with the last cave abode. Cultivators who could reach this stage were all geniuses with 3 or 4 cultivation potentials. However, they usually only cultivated a single attribute, so they would choose the first 2 connate cave abodes. Hanj couldn't choose but still ended up with the one that suited him the most. After choosing the cave abode, Hanj was given a talisman. Tearing the talisman would lead them to their connate cave abodes. The 3 of them bowed and left. After walking out of the hall, Hanj immediately tore the talisman. A golden pigeon appeared out of thin air and flew into the distance. Hanj immediately followed it. The other 2 bid farewell and also parted. After flying after the golden pigeon for half an hour, Hanj finally found the connate cave abode. It was located in a forest. The golden pigeon flew head-on into the cliff wall, inducing a glow in the wall. Feeling the fluctuations of spirit chi, there was probably a formation in front. A hole appeared on the cliff wall, and Hanj immediately walked in. The tunnel was wide enough for 4 people to walk side by side. After walking for 50 steps, he saw the cave abode. It was huge, and the walls were damp. There was a hole at the top of the cave where cold air flowed in. In the middle of the cave, there was a pool with many water plants. The water was warm, and vapor could be seen above the surface. Hanj felt that the dense spirit chi might be slightly more concentrated than the spiritual pools, and it contained all 6 attributes. Hanj was satisfied. He first took out the golden cicada's mystic divine robe and wore it before putting on the jade pure sect's Taoist robe over it. The moment Hanj put on the numinous treasure, he felt his entire aura change. He felt so safe. Hanj smiled happily as he walked back to the cave entrance. He looked up. This was his exclusive cave now. He had to give it a name. He used his finger as a sword to carve words above the cave entrance. India today, freedom tomorrow. Hanj nodded in satisfaction. It was a good piece of calligraphy. The strokes demonstrated his power and the strength of his sword chi. After carving the line, Hanj chopped the trees nearby and then made a table, chairs, and a bed. At Jade's serene hall, Fairy Zixuan was expressionless. Shang Wei recounted what had happened in the inner sect assessment. When she heard that Hanj admitted defeat after entering the top 3, the corner of her mouth twitched. This kid, so unambitious. Fairy Zixuan admired Hanj's heart towards the Dao, but she couldn't understand why he was so afraid of being in the limelight. He's ridiculously cowardly. Most importantly, Hanj's appearance was extremely outstanding. It was hard for him not to stand out. Master, did Junior Han suffer persecution when he was young? Shang Wei asked. Fairy Zixuan was deep in thought. It looked like she had to ask Elder Iron. Can it be that Elder Iron tortured Hanj before? Thinking of this, Fairy Zixuan's glare turned cold. She had never liked Elder Iron. If it weren't for his meritorious service in the outer sect, no one would be willing to accept him into the inner sect even if he reached the Foundation Establishment realm. Elder Iron had hardly any potential. After the inner sect assessment ended, Hanj didn't attract much attention. The disciples would only smile when others mentioned him. Hanj also didn't go to the inner sect city and stayed in the connate cave to cultivate. He was prepared to enter the golden core realm as soon as possible. All his spirit chi had already reached the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. As long as he cultivated them to perfection, he would be able to reach the Golden Core realm. Hanj was full of fighting spirit. Once he reached the Golden Core realm, he would be able to use the 6 paths of reincarnation's divine powers. The 6 paths of reincarnation technique had its own divine art, but it required one to reach a certain realm. Reaching the Golden Core realm would unlock one of those. Half a month later, he had visitors. They were Mofuchu and Zafan. When they saw the carvings above the entrance, they were speechless. India today, freedom tomorrow. It really suited his personality. Brother Han, Mofuchu is here to visit. Mofuchu shouted with cupped fists. After a few seconds, the door opened. The 2 of them immediately walked in. Hanj was meditating by the pool when they saw him. Hanj opened his eyes and asked, "What brings you here?" Zafan looked at him with a complicated expression. Mofuchu smiled and said, "Recently, The conflict between us and the viridescent nether cult has been escalating. Who knows when a full-scale war will break out one day. We would like to invite you to go on a mission together and take down one of the cult's branches. Apparently, they possess many pills that can help you cultivate. Before coming, Mofuchu had thought about it. If he wanted to convince Hanj, he had to talk about cultivation. Hanj shook his head and said, "Thank you for your kind intentions. I don't want to leave for the time being. I have to enter seclusion to break through." Breakthrough in seclusion? Both of them were stunned. Zifan couldn't help but ask, "You want to enter the Golden Core Realm?" Hanj nodded. "It's not that easy to break through to the Golden Core Realm. The heavenly tribulation you will face is even more terrifying than the one at the Foundation Establishment Realm. You have to rely on some tribulation transcendence pills to neutralize the power of the heavenly lightning and consolidate your Dao heart," Mofuchu reminded. Zifan added, "This mission is very important. If we perform well, we will definitely succeed. Our status in the Jade Pure sect will also rise in the future, and we will be able to make a name for ourselves in the cultivation world. You have received an invitation from a fellow disciple. Facing fame and fortune, you have the following choices." 3 lines of words appeared before Hanj's eyes. Isn't it obvious?" Hanj said righteously. "I'm sorry, I'm not interested in fame or fortune. I just want to cultivate diligently. If the Jade Pure sect is in trouble in the future, I'll definitely risk my life defending the sect. But right now, I don't want to leave the sect." Chapter 24, Golden Core Realm, Kylin Saw. No matter how Mofuchu and Zifan tried to persuade him, Hanj would not give in. The two could only leave helplessly. After leaving the cave abode, the two flew for a distance. Zifan couldn't help but say, "Although he's powerful, he's too timid." He had already put it nicely. Frankly, he wanted to say that Hanj was afraid of death. He had heard from other disciples of Jade Serene Peak that Hanj was good at everything, but he was too timid. Mofuchu didn't speak for Hanj this time. He sighed and said, "One can't only cultivate in seclusion. We're mortals. We still have to fight for opportunities. Just wait and see. He will come to his senses sooner or later." Zifan nodded. He suddenly looked forward to this mission. Once he obtained those elixirs, he might be able to surpass Hanj. Thinking of this, Zifan was very excited. Previously, he had been knocked out by Hanj in the inner sect assessment. It was really traumatic. Although he didn't hate him, he had always wanted to regain his honor. Congratulations on obtaining a Little Universe Belt. Little Universe Belt. It contains a large alternate space. It can be used as a storage ring or storage bag. The belt is elastic and not easily destroyed. Hanj raised his eyebrows and looked at the Little Universe Belt in his hand. The belt was like a scroll of painting, but a very narrow one. He used his divine sense to probe it. There was an alternate space of 1,000 cubic meters within. It was much bigger than his storage bag. He immediately dripped his blood on it to claim the belt. After he succeeded, he threw everything into the Little Universe Belt and tied it around his waist. The belt tightened around his robe. It wasn't too tight nor too loose around his waist. Very comfortable. Hanj played with it for a while before resuming cultivation. 2 years passed in a flash. His 6 spiritual powers had all reached perfection. He was preparing to transcend the tribulation. He activated the barrier function and underwent his tribulation in the cave abode. Although the heavenly tribulation of the Golden Core Realm was formidable, it was far from being able to destroy the mountain. The heavenly thunder would be concentrated above his head. Apparently, the Golden Core Realm's heavenly tribulations would provoke his inner evil. Only around 3 in 10 Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators could break through to the Golden Core Realm. They would either be struck to death by the heavenly tribulation or be driven mad from the inner evil. Hanj had a top-notch cultivation potential and practiced top techniques. He wasn't afraid of these obstacles. As he activated his cultivation method, dark clouds started to gather above him. Lightning began flashing. At the same time, a voice sounded in Hanj's mind. "What do you want? Fame, money, women? You're already strong enough. Stop concealing yourself and show the world your strength." This voice was like a demon, constantly bewitching him. Hanj was indifferent and even wanted to laugh. Is this the inner evil? So lame. As Hanj moved his hand, the spirit energy in his body surged. Foundation Establishment, Golden Core Formation. spirit energy began to gather in his dantian like the center of a whirlpool in his body. Bolts of lightning suddenly shot out from the dark clouds and landed on Hanj's body. Hanj directly used the 6 paths of reincarnation technique to absorb the heavenly lightning. Transcending the tribulation with 6 types of spiritual force was simple and smooth. Hanj's thunder cultivation potential was unable to completely absorb the heavenly lightning. However, he was able to fend off the excess with other spirit energy. He didn't feel a thing. He soon noticed that it wasn't his spirit energy that was doing the job, but the golden cicada's mystic divine robe's effect. This numinous treasure can actually help me transcend the tribulation, Hanj thought in surprise. The golden cicada's mystic divine robe was able to withstand an attack from a soul formation realm cultivator. Would it also be able to help him transcend to the nascent soul realm in the future? Hanj got excited. What a treasure! Motivated, Hanj continued his tribulation. 7 days later, Hanj finally succeeded. Congratulations on breaking through to the Golden Core Realm and obtaining an unparalleled magical sword. Congratulations on obtaining the Kylin Sword. Kylin Sword, a sword made from the bones of a Kylin. It contains the Kylin's soul and has the effect of exorcising evil. A sword appeared in Hanj's hand. This sword was completely black, and the blade was embedded with Kylin scales. The hilt looked even more awesome. The blade was 3 fingers wide and 1 meter long. Holding this sword, Hanj's palm felt cool. What a cool sword. It matched him very well. Hanj put the Kylin sword away and began consolidating his golden core realm cultivation. Half a month later, he began to cultivate the 3rd level of the 6 paths of reincarnation technique, and at the same time, he inherited his first mystical power, 6 paths soul absorption technique. As the name implied, this mystical power could absorb souls, especially wandering ghosts. After mastering it, Hanj could also see souls that ordinary people couldn't. After Hanj learned the cultivation method, he started to cultivate the mystical power. His top-notch cultivation potential of 6 attributes allowed him to learn it within 10 days. As expected of a mystical power, it was much more difficult to learn than magic, and it was obviously stronger. Hanj really wanted to try it on wandering ghosts, but this was the Jade Pure sect. He opened his attributes panel. Name, Hanj. Lifespan, 64, 499. Race, mortal. Cultivation, 1st level of the Golden Core Realm. Technique, 6 paths of reincarnation technique, can be inherited. Magic, unparalleled finger divine sword, 7 illusionary steps, 3 pure shadow sword technique, unparalleled, 9 dragons devil expelling seal. Mystical power, 6 paths soul absorption technique. Equipment, golden cicada's mystic divine robe, grade 7 numinous treasure, little universe belt. Kylin sword. Cultivation potential, spiritual physique of the 6 paths. It contains top-notch wind, fire, water, earth, wood, and thunder cultivation potentials. Increases providence to a certain extent. Connate providence is as follows: unparalleled, immortal beauty, top-notch charm. Destined Sword Fanatic, top-notch Sword Dao aptitude, top-notch Sword Dao learning ability. Unparalleled movement technique, top-notch movement technique aptitude. Descendant of the Immortal Emperor. After the game begins, you will receive an unparalleled cultivation technique and 1000 superior grade spirit stones. Check interpersonal relationships. Lifespan has increased to 499 years. Not bad. 400 years is enough for me to break through to the nascent soul realm. I bet I can break through in 100 years. Hanj thought proudly. He suddenly remembered that he hadn't bid farewell to Fairy Zygzuan after the inner sect assessment. I'm being rude. Hanj immediately stood up and left. After leaving the cave abode, he flew to the Jade Pure sect's inner sect. It was easy to find his way. The 18 peaks were too eye-catching. Hanj checked his interpersonal relationships as he flew on his sword. The favorability and hatred didn't change much. He opened the mailbox. Your good friend Li Qingtsai was attacked by a fiendish cultivator. Your good friend Li Qingtsai was attacked by a fiendish cultivator. Omit 10 similar messages. Your good friend Li Qingzai was attacked by a fiendish cultivator and was severely injured. He luckily escaped. Hanj was stunned. Sect leaders being attacked by the fiendish cultivators? So many messages. It looks really bad. Hanj became nervous. Is the cult about to launch an attack on us soon? While thinking, Hanj arrived at Jade Serene Peak. He quickly came to the front of Jade Serene Hall and knelt down. After the door opened, he got up and entered the hall. Junior Han, you're finally willing to come back, Shang Weia complained. Hanj raised his eyebrows. Is this girl actually Fairy Zixuan's relative? Why do I bump into her every time I come here? Shang Weia's cultivation had reached the 5th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. This speed could be considered fast among ordinary people, but it was incomparable to Hanj's speed. Completely incomparable. Hanj knelt in front of Fairy Zixuan and said, "Greetings to you, Master." After the inner sect assessment ended, this disciple was in a hurry to cultivate and forgot to visit you. Fairy Zixuan narrowed her eyes and asked, "You actually still remember to come back? I thought you'd already betrayed me." Hanj was embarrassed. He was about to explain when Fairy Zixuan continued. The Jade Pure sect is about to face an unprecedented disaster. I'll give you a chance. You can leave the sect right now. Chapter 25, Gaining Favorability. Well-rounded scene. Hearing Fairy Zixuan's words, Hanj's first reaction was that she was joking. At this moment, words suddenly appeared before his eyes. Your sect master is in danger. No one knows whether he's still alive. You have the following choices. Hanj frowned. He subconsciously wanted to pick the first choice and avoid the danger. But on second thought, I'm wearing the golden cicada's mystic divine robe, what am I afraid of? Hanj asked, what about you, Master? Fairy Zixuan's expression was calm as she replied, survive or perish, I will stay at the Jade Pure sect. Shang Weia wanted to say something but hesitated. Hanj said seriously, then I will follow you, Master. He would do missions and increase others' favorability of him. Fairy Zixuan's favorability of you has increased. Current favorability, 3 stars. 3 stars. With one more, will she be a potential companion? Hanj thought, I'm being obscene. My heart follows the Dao, it cannot become filthy. Fairy Zixuan's expression remained unchanged as she asked, really? Aren't you afraid of death? Death is unavoidable. When the time comes, one either has an impactful or a mediocre life. Even though I pursue longevity, I won't abandon you, Master. I've never taught you anything. Yes, but your kindness and care are invaluable. You've helped me compete for opportunities and settle potential troubles. I remember all of that. He actually meant it. After being reborn and living for more than 60 years, Fairy Zixuan was the person who treated him the best. Although Xing Hongxuan liked him the most, she had once threatened him. Ever since he had entered Fairy Zixuan's tutelage, she hadn't made things difficult for him. Even if he hadn't followed her instructions, she hadn't blamed him. Hanj really didn't want such a good master to die. However, if he encountered an overpowered enemy, Hanj would still prioritize his own life. My main mission in life won't change. Longevity, longevity, longevity. After hearing Hanj's heartfelt words, Fairy Zixuan smiled with relief, as expected of a disciple of Jade Serene Peak. However, the situation is not as dire as sect dissolution. Even if sect master has gone missing, our foundation is still there. I know that you're very afraid of death, so I asked you to leave first. Fairy Zixuan smiled. Hanj nodded and asked, where did sect master go missing? He went to investigate the viridescent nether cult. I see. Hanj was relieved. It would be terrible if he was abducted in the Jade Pure sect. The viridescent nether cult had attacked Li Qingzai dozens of times, but they had only managed to severely injure him. It seemed like there was no nascent soul realm cultivator among them. If that was the case, Hanj was more confident about his safety. A nascent soul realm cultivator couldn't kill him. Are there any problems with your cultivation recently? Fairy Zixuan asked with gentle eyes. Speaking of which, she hadn't really taught this disciple yet. Hanj shook his head and said, no, there's no need to trouble you, Master. If he cultivated with Fairy Zixuan, wouldn't he be exposing his golden core realm cultivation? If the sect elders heard about it, they might drag him over to labor. When Fairy Zixuan heard this, she immediately snorted. Then get lost. Yes, Master. Hanj left. He had just left the hall when Fairy Zixuan took out a storage bag and handed it to Chang Wei. Help your junior according to what I said. Chang Wei nodded and stood up excitedly. As soon as Hanj flew out of the jade serene beak, he heard a whistling sound behind him. He turned around and saw Chang Wei chasing after him on her sword. Junior Han, wait for me. Chang Wei waved her hand and shouted with a happy smile on her face. Hanj frowned and stopped. Chang Wei stopped at his side and waved the storage bag in her hand, saying, there's a set formation and some spirit herb seeds inside. Master asked me to help you set up the formation and plant spirit herbs to increase the spirit chi in your cave abode. When Hanj heard this, his brows immediately relaxed. He cupped his fists and said, thanks to our master. Thank you, senior. Chang Wei smiled even more happily. The two of them continued flying towards the connate cave abode. Arriving at the entrance of the cave abode, Chang Wei saw the words on the stone door. With a strange expression, she muttered, India today, freedom tomorrow. This name. Hanj entered the cave expressionlessly. Chang Wei followed closely behind. She stopped at the edge of the tunnel and took out the equipment for the formation and began setting it up. Hanj turned around and stood behind her, observing closely. Learning how to set up formations was also beneficial for the future. Chang Wei noticed that he was behind her and couldn't help but become more serious. After nearly 2 hours, she finally finished setting up the array formation. The switch was embedded into the wall of the cave. It was a piece of jade stone that could be activated by pouring spirit energy into it. This array formation could conceal the cave's entrance. If one were to forcibly enter it, they would be trapped in an illusion and become unable to extricate themselves. Hanj sighed. I didn't expect you to know array formations. Chang Wei smiled proudly and said, what do you think I'm learning from Master all the time? Although my cultivation level is inferior to yours, I know alchemy, talisman crafting, array formations, exorcism, and so on. He had a whole new level of respect for her. Chang Wei turned around and walked into the cave abode. After sizing it up, she walked to the pool's side and began planting spirit herbs. If I become an immortal one day, I will let you be my herbalist. So, you should work hard on these skills, Hanj said with a smile. Chang Wei harumphed. In your dreams, I'm your senior. If I were to be something, I will be your... Hee. She suddenly laughed. Hanj played dumb and didn't reply. Rebuffed, Chang Wei continued planting the spirit herb seeds. 10 minutes later, she finished planting all the seeds. Hanj thanked her hurriedly. That's all. I won't disturb your cultivation any longer. After some time, I'll move over to accompany you. How about that? Chang Wei covered her mouth and asked, even winking at him. Vigilant, Hanj asked, you want to take advantage of my cave abode? Chang Wei rolled her eyes at him and turned to leave angrily. After she left the cave abode, Hanj let out a long sigh. He patted his chest and muttered, oh, Hanj, it's really difficult to protect your body. Hanj walked to the cave's entrance. After activating the formation, he returned to the wooden bed and started cultivating. The first level of the Golden Core Realm couldn't satisfy him. After mastering the third level of the 6 paths of reincarnation art, his chi absorption speed was much faster than before. Coupled with the rich spirit chi in the connate cave abode, he cultivated very happily. 5 years passed in a flash. Hanj's thunder cultivation potential had reached the 3rd level of the Golden Core Realm, while the other cultivation potentials had yet to be cultivated. He planned to cultivate his thunder cultivation potential to the 9th level of the Golden Core Realm before cultivating his other cultivation potentials. After all, the cult could attack at any time. His lifespan had also increased slightly. There were many ways to increase his lifespan on the path of cultivation, such as pills, natural treasures, and cultivation techniques. Hanj's lifespan was only his most basic lifespan. If his cultivation couldn't break through, he could use other methods to increase it. In these 5 years, the Jade Pure sect was safe. However, Sect Master Li Qingcai was often pursued by fiendish cultivators and was always heavily injured. Mo Fuchu and Zifan were also frequently attacked by fiendish cultivators. It seemed like their adventures were truly fascinating. Every time he saw the messages of them being attacked by fiendish cultivators, Hanj felt lucky he didn't follow them. Hanj was still cultivating when a line of words appeared before his eyes. Detected bearer of connate Providence, check its origin. Chapter 26. Inherent Fiend Chen Santon. Connate Providence? Hanj frowned. Is there someone outside the cave? He quickly checked its origin. Chen Santon is inherently fiendish. He possesses an extremely strong affinity towards the fiendish Dao's techniques. When he was young, he wandered along with his parents. When his parents were killed by bandits, his fiendish character was awakened. He, who was only 7 years old, slaughtered over 100 bandits. From then on, his killing became unstoppable. Eventually, he joined the viridescent nether cult and became very successful. Presently, he's ranked as the eldest core disciple of the viridescent nether cult. As expected, someone from the viridescent nether cult core disciple. So, he hasn't reached the level of an elder yet. Hanj understood that the strength of the cult and Jade Pure sect was about the same. Chen Santon was at most at the 9th level of the Golden Core realm. Why is he here at the Jade Pure sect? Is he alone? Or is there a large group hidden around him? Hanj got up and carefully walked to the cave entrance. He looked out and saw a man in black walking out of the woods nearby. He was acting suspiciously. Hanj couldn't feel the man's presence. If he hadn't witnessed it with his own eyes, he might not have discovered him. Other than Chen Santon, there was no one else. As Chen Santon walked to the entrance of the cave, his gaze fell on a line of words on the mountain wall. India today, freedom tomorrow. How laughable. The people of the Jade Pure sect are indeed cowards. Chen Santon couldn't help but sneer. In the tunnel, Hanj felt offended. He's asking to be killed. Hanj activated the 3 Pure Shadow Sword technique. 3 sword shadows floated behind him, ready to kill Chen Santon at any time. Because of the array formation, Chen Santon couldn't see Hanj and couldn't sense his aura. The two were less than 10 steps apart. Chen Santon looked for a while and felt that something was off. Could this be a cave abode? Chen Santon narrowed his eyes. He took out a sword and gently stabbed it into the mountain wall. Swish, swish, swish. The sword light flashed, and Chen Santon subconsciously closed his eyes. He instinctively jumped back. 3 sword shadows pierced through his body like lightning, and blood spluttered everywhere. Chen Santon landed a dozen meters away like a sandbag. He crashed into a big tree, and the leaves fell like rain. Ouch! Chen Santon gritted his teeth and looked up. 3 sword shadows were floating above his head, ready to slash down at any moment. He was scared out of his wits. What's this? He hurriedly shouted, "Sir, stop!" Standing by the cave entrance, Hanj shook his head. So weak, he can't withstand a single blow. Or is my 3 Pure Shadow Sword technique too powerful? Hanj touched his chin and pondered. After being attacked by the 3 Pure Shadow Sword technique, the aura of Chen Santon's spirit energy was revealed. Hanj made a comparison. Chen Santon's spirit energy was about the same level as his. However, he couldn't see through Chen Santon's cultivation level. In other words, Chen Santon's cultivation level was higher than his, but the strength of his spirit energy was not as strong as his. 6 paths of reincarnation technique's dominance was finally revealed. In a good mood, Hanj asked, "Why did you come to the Jade Pure sect?" Chen Santon replied, "I happened to pass by this place. I didn't want to enter the Jade Pure sect." He's really good at lying. The 3 sword shadows dropped down. Horrified, Chen Santon quickly jumped to the side. But his right leg was still pierced by the sword shadows and was nailed to the ground. He fell down like a dog pouncing on sheet. Damn it! Chen Santon was so aggrieved that he was about to explode. He was the core disciple of the cult, yet he was subdued before he could even make a move. The 3 sword shadows were like ghosts. Their speed was ridiculously fast. Nailed to his legs, they were actually draining his spirit energy. What kind of spell is this? Chen Santon panicked. He had investigated the Jade Pure sect. The sect wasn't a pure sword cultivation sect. Among the elders, no one had such a powerful sword-related spell. Could it be the mysterious Great Grand Elder? Chen Santon, inherent fiend, the eldest disciple of the viridescent nether cult. What do you think will happen to you if I hand you over to the Jade Pure sect? Hanj's voice sounded again. Chen Santen's expression changed drastically. His heart was in turmoil. How does this guy know my background? Completely flustered, Chen Santen hurriedly kowtowed towards the direction of the cave abode and said fearfully, "Sir, I was wrong. I was wrong. Give me a chance. I've never killed a disciple of the Jade Pure sect." Hanj was hesitating whether he should kill Chen Santen. Based on his experience from reading novels, killing such a prodigy might lead to a series of alternative storylines. Generally speaking, there would always be mechanisms with which his elders would know if such a prodigy was killed. Then, the protagonist would be pursued by them. Kill the little ones, come the big ones. Kill the big ones, come the old ones. Kill the old ones, come the older and bigger ones from the heavens. Why don't I capture him? If Sect Master is captured in the future, we can use him in the exchange, right? Hanj thought silently. Sounds feasible. In any case, he was wearing the golden cicada's mystic divine robe. It was impossible for Chen Santen to hurt him. Hanj waved his right hand, and the three sword shadows disappeared into thin air. Chen Santen didn't dare to escape. He could only kneel on the ground and shiver. He was already injured. With Hanj's strength, even if he tried his best to escape, he wouldn't be able to. Coming. Hanj's voice floated over. The cave entrance appeared, and the stone door opened. Chen Santen saw Hanj. What a handsome man. So young. He thought Hanj was the disciple of that elder. He gritted his teeth and stood up. After he entered, Hanj activated the array formation again and closed the cave door. Hanj turned and walked into the cave. Chen Santen suddenly grabbed Hanj. The sword in his hand hung in front of Hanj's neck and he shouted in a deep voice, "Elder, let me go. Otherwise, I'll kill your disciple." The abode fell into silence. Chen Santen looked around uneasily. Hanj said faintly, "I don't have a disciple." Chen Santen's body froze when he heard this. Glang! His sword fell to the ground, and he suddenly knelt down, forcing a smile. "Senior, I was just joking." He could sense Hanj's cultivation level. The 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. Impossible. It must be a facade. To be able to directly suppress me and predict my background, this guy must be an expert. Hanj walked further inside the cave and said, "Follow me." Chen Santen quickly followed. Hanj came to his own wooden bed and sat down. Chen Santen knelt in front of him and appeared very respectful. Is he really the eldest core disciple of the viridescent nether cult? Hanj originally wanted to hand Chen Santen over to Fairy Zixuan, but if he did that, Chen Santen would definitely escape with his life. He didn't have the strength to suppress Chen Santen. At most, he could defeat him. The reason why Chen Santen didn't dare to flee was because he overestimated Hanj's strength. In any case, with the golden cicada's mystic divine robe protecting his body, he wasn't afraid that Chen Santen would ambush him. Not only could the golden cicada's mystic divine robe protect his body, but it could also protect his head. In any case, Chen Santen couldn't hurt him. Hanj said softly, "Pick up your sword and stab me with all your strength." Chen Santen shivered and wailed. "Elder, I understand my mistake. I know I did wrong. Come on. If you don't try, you'll keep thinking about ambushing me from now on." "I don't dare." "I won't blame you. Just do it." "Elder, I'll kowtow to you." Chen Santen almost cried as he hurriedly kowtowed to Hanj. He thought Hanj was setting him up and finding a reason to kill him. In any case, if he made a move, it would definitely not end well for him. Hanj was speechless. Am I that scary? He had read Chen Santen's background introduction and thought this person was extremely cruel and would rather die than submit. He didn't expect him to be so cowardly. "From today onwards, you will stay here and plant spirit herbs for me. You can also cultivate," Hanj instructed. "Okay. When can I leave?" "What? I said the wrong thing. I will slap my own mouth." Chapter 27, Death of the Inherent Fiend. I'm Cao Cao, 9th level of the Golden Core Realm. Chen Santen's presence did not change Hanj's life. He focused on cultivating every day. He used his own wooden bed as a barrier. During his cultivation, Chen Santen couldn't feel his spirit energy fluctuation at all. To Chen Santen, Hanj appeared even more unfathomable. In the blink of an eye, a year quickly passed. As the spirit herbs grew, the spirit chi in the cave abode became denser. Hanj's thunder cultivation potential also successfully reached the 4th stage of the Golden Core realm, a level higher each year. Not bad. If news of this were to spread, countless people would be scared to death. Chen Santen had already calmed down. He discovered that Hanj didn't make things difficult for him, but he didn't dare to run away. So, he could only cultivate along. Hanj had been cultivating and hadn't left. This made Chen Santen even more anxious. Although it feels good to train, it will delay the intelligence if this continues. Chen Santen was facing away from Hanj as he frowned and thought. He was the eldest core disciple. If he didn't return after such a long time, people in the cult would definitely be worried and even panic. What should I do? Ambush him? Chen San was in a dilemma. When he thought of his defeat last year, he shuddered. The difference in strength was too great. For Hanj to dare to cultivate so fearlessly, he must have everything under control. Damn it. What's this fellow trying to do? Trapping me here? If I'm strong enough, I'll definitely make you pay 100 times over. Chen Santen's eyes flashed coldly. Who am I? I'm the formidable inherent fiend of the viridescent nether cult. Chen Santen's hatred for you has increased. Current hatred, 4 stars. Hanj was disturbed from his cultivation by this line and frowned. Fook. It rose again. Hanj wanted to vomit blood. In the past year, he didn't torture him. Chen Santen seemed obedient, but his hatred for him kept increasing. Now, it had reached 4 stars. To the extent that he would fight me till death. Chen Santen didn't know what he was thinking. He was still planning to kill Hanj and escape. I can only wait for him to go out. With his cultivation, he must be an elder or the great grand elder. Recently, the cult has been harassing the Jade Pure sect. It's impossible for him to continue cultivating in peace. When I escape, I will definitely lead the cult to flatten Jade Pure sect. By then, I will tear this brat into pieces and extract his soul. Chen Santen was filled with killing intent, but he didn't dare to show it. When he thought about how he would torture him and how Hanj would kneel before him and beg for mercy, he felt extremely good. At this moment, swish, swish, swish. It was the familiar ear-piercing sound. Before Chen Santen could react, 3 sword shadows pierced through his chest and blood splattered all over the ground. Chen Santen's eyes widened. His eyes were bloodshot as he turned his head in disbelief. Hanj waved his right hand expressionlessly. The sword shadows turned around and blew up his head. Chen Santen, the inherent fiend, was dead. This time, it was even more straightforward than a year ago. Chen Santen didn't even have the time to dodge. Until Chen Santen died, Hanj didn't know how strong he was. Chen Santen had long let down his guard. He thought Hanj would keep him alive for some purpose. He didn't expect to be killed today. The moment Chen Santen's corpse fell to the ground, a light ball emerged from his body. Hanj raised his eyebrows. Could it be? The ball of light changed rapidly and turned into a human figure. This person had an aged face and his eyes were filled with evilness. He first glanced at Chen Santen's corpse. Then he stared at Hanj. The cave abode was silent. Hanj sighed. So the old is really here. The old man snorted coldly. Are you sighing because you regret it? You're dead for killing my disciple. State your name. Hanj said expressionlessly. I'm Cao Cao. What about you? Viridescent nether cult, Jiang Kun Mo. Oh, HMPH. Just wait for your death. After Jiang Kun Mo finished speaking, he disappeared. Jiang Kun Mo has hatred towards you. Current hatred, 5 stars. 5 stars. Very high. Hanj panicked. He quickly checked his interpersonal relationships and heaved a sigh of relief. 8th level of the nascent soul realm. Just like that? From his tone, Hanj thought he was a soul formation realm cultivator. Only a nascent soul. Hanj stood up and began to search for Chen Santen's storage bag and storage ring. After a person died, their ownership over their storage rings and storage bags would terminate. This brat is quite rich. There were countless spirit stones and pills, as well as many talismans and curses. But he had few pieces of equipment and not even a single manual. Only bring money when going out. Hanj poured everything into his little universe belt. He then waved his right hand, and his fire spirit energy turned into raging flames that wrapped around Chen Santen's corpse, burning it into ashes. Hanj returned to his bed and continued cultivating. Time passed quickly. 8 years passed. Hanj had finally reached the 9th level of the Golden Core Realm. Besides the Thunder cultivation potential, the other 5 were still at the 1st level of the Golden Core Realm. No one would believe it if news of this speed of breakthrough were to spread. Hanj started to cultivate his wind cultivation potential. It could increase his flying speed, and was suitable for escaping from danger. Half a month later, someone visited. It was Xing Hongxuan. "Husband, are you there?" Hearing this, Hanj's mouth twitched. After so many years, Xing Hongxuan's cultivation level had already reached the 3rd stage of the Foundation Establishment Realm. It seemed like Taoist Jingxu was treating her well. Back when she was still at the Qi Refinement Realm, her breakthrough speed hadn't been this fast. Hanj thought for a moment, then waved his hand to close the array formation at the entrance. The stone door then opened wide. Xing Hongxuan quickly walked in. Upon seeing Hanj, she beamed with joy. She first sized up the situation inside the cave abode, then walked to Hanj's side and sat down. Then, she leaned against him. Hanj frowned and said, "Miss Xing, please behave appropriately. I haven't agreed to be your husband." Xing Hongxuan pursed her lips. "Weren't you very excited when you were in the outer sect?" Hanj felt awkward, but his expression did not change, and he looked cold. Xing Hongxuan waved her right hand, and 10 medicinal bottles appeared on the ground. "These are pure jade pills," Xing Hongxuan said with a proud smile. "I've accumulated them over the years. I don't believe you won't be tempted." Hanj's expression softened. "Take it back. I don't need it anymore." Xing Hongxuan's smile froze as she frowned. After that, her expression changed greatly, and she asked with a trembling voice, "Could it be that you've already?" Hanj smiled. Xing Hongxuan immediately jumped towards him, but he blocked her with his spirit energy. "Miss Xing, if you want to be my companion, you have to cultivate harder. Otherwise, after hundreds of years, I will become an immortal and you will become white bones. Your deep love would then be my punishment," Hanj said seriously. Xing Hongxuan calmed down upon hearing this. "He has a point." She immediately stood up and said, "You're right. I can't be your burden. I'll help you ask for golden core cultivation pills." With that, she took back the medicine bottle on the ground and walked towards the cave entrance. "Miss Xing, don't tell anyone about my breakthrough," Hanj reminded her. His cultivation speed was too astonishing. If news of this got out, he wouldn't be able to cultivate in peace. Xing Hongxuan turned and smiled. "Don't worry, I'm also afraid that you will attract the attention of other girls." Her smile was as beautiful as a flower, and it was extremely moving. Hanj quickly suppressed his palpitations. What a terrifying woman. I almost fell for it. After Xing Hongxuan left, Hanj waved his hand and activated the array formation again. He closed the stone gate and continued his cultivation. Xing Hongxuan. Fairies I Xuan. Both have the word Xuan in their names. Could it be that they are related? Hanj held his breath and thought silently. Chapter 28. Target is nascent soul realm. Huge changes. To Hanj, the feud between the viridescent nether cult and the Jade Pure sect had been going on for decades. In reality, it had been even longer. The two sects weren't the only ones in the cultivation world. There were other sects as well. Their enemies weren't just each other. It was precisely because of this that the viridescent nether cult and the Jade Pure sect didn't dare to make a move. They were afraid that both sides would suffer losses and give the other sects a chance to reap the benefits. In a dark hall, 8 figures were meditating. Zhang Kunmo was among them. The leader was a man in a blood-red robe. His hair was black and white, and he had an indifferent expression. He held a horsetail whisk in his hand. He was Duan Tongshan, cult leader of the viridescent nether cult. "You still haven't caught Li Qingcai after so long?" Duan Tongshan asked in a deep voice. The 7 elders fell silent. They had chased after Li Qingcai for nearly 20 years, and each time, Li Qingcai was lucky enough to escape. Li Qingcai intentionally didn't return to the Jade Pure sect. He was acting as the decoy for the sect. Zhang Kunmo said, "Let's just ignore him and attack the Jade Pure sect directly. My disciple was killed there. We put in so much effort on Santon. Aren't you going to seek revenge?" He gritted his teeth at the thought of Hanj. Back then, he had threatened him. But after so many years, he still hadn't taken action. He could even imagine Hanj mocking him for boasting. I think so, too. Our overall strength has already surpassed the Jade Pure sects. We can attack them directly. During the Demonic Path Convention, the other sects have already declared that unless we conquer the neighboring Jade Pure sect, they will not submit to us. That's right. If we can't even defeat a nearby Orthodox sect, how can we be the leader of the Demonic Path sects? I'm willing to lead my disciples to attack the Jade Pure sect. Other than Li Qingcai, there's another old monster in the Jade Pure sect. The elders began to discuss amongst themselves. Duan Tongshan's eyes flickered, but he didn't say anything. After a long time, all the elders stopped and turned to look at him, waiting for him to make a decision. Duan Tongshan said, I'm preparing to break through to the soul formation realm. Let's launch the attack after my success. By then, it would be very easy to defeat the Jade Pure sect. Soul formation realm. The elders looked at him in shock. Zhang Kunmo took a deep breath and asked, Leader, are you confident? Duan Tongshan said calmly, I've been preparing for this for decades. I'm 90% confident. 30 more years. It won't be long. 30 years. To mortals, it might be half a lifetime. But to them, it wasn't long at all. It had been 10 years since Xing Hongxuan left. Hanj cultivated his wind cultivation potential to the 9th level of the Golden Core Realm and his fire cultivation potential to the 3rd. Ever since his thunder cultivation potential reached the 9th level of the Golden Core Realm, cultivating the other cultivation potentials was twice as easy. Hanj already saw the nascent soul realm waving at him. He grew stronger every day. It was a wonderful feeling. So, cultivating in seclusion wasn't boring at all. Only by reaching the nascent soul realm as soon as possible could one truly emerge from the weak. Hanj was already 88 years old, and he was at the 9th level of the Golden Core Realm. In the cultivation world, there was definitely no other person as fast as him. But he was still unsatisfied. Even reaching the nascent soul realm wasn't enough. He wanted to cultivate until the end, until he was absolutely invincible. One fine day, Shang Weya came to visit. Hanj closed the array formation and welcomed her into the residence. Junior brother, I'm here to see you. I also brought you some natural treasures. Planting them by the pool will make the spirit chi in your cave abode even richer. In the future, it might become the cave abode with the richest spirit chi in the entire Jade Pure sect. Shang Weya said with a smile. She walked to the edge of the pool and began scattering seeds. Hanj smiled. Thank you, senior. Don't thank me. It was all given to me by master. I'm just helping out with some manual labor, Shang Weya said with a smile. Hanj couldn't help but think about fairies Yuan. He uttered a word of gratitude in his head. Shang Weya continued. Ever since you went into seclusion, Jade Serene Peak welcomed several new disciples. Junior Ryan, who was ranked behind you, passed away 2 years ago. Elder Ryan has died. Hanj was stunned. He hurriedly clicked on his interpersonal relationships and realized that he could no longer find Elder Ryan's profile picture. He was gone. Speaking of him, his cultivation potential was so bad. He should have spent his entire life in the outer sect. To be able to come to the inner sect, he definitely had no more regrets. However, before his death, he wanted to see you. His apprentice alchemist told me that. Why did he want to see me? Hanj asked with a complicated expression. He used to hate Elder Ryan, but now that he thought about it, Elder Ryan had never hurt him. It could even be said that he had raised him. Elder Ryan's death caused Hanj's disgust towards him to disappear without a trace. He even felt a bit melancholy. This is the path of cultivation. People always die on the way. But, I can't die halfway. Hanj became more determined to pursue immortality. Shang Weya shook her head and said, how would I know? Did you know each other before? Only a few people knew that Hanj and Elder Ryan knew each other. Shang Weya wasn't one of them. It doesn't matter anymore. Senior, cultivate harder. If you die too, I will be sad. Hanj was sincere this time. After coming to this world, he didn't know many people. There were even fewer people who had treated him well. Shang Weya turned to look at him and smiled. HMPH. Stinky little junior. I thought you didn't care about me. Hanj smiled and shook his head. The two of them started chatting. Most of the time, Chang Weihao was the one talking. She described everything that had happened in the inner sect. Zifan had completely risen up and became an influential figure in the inner sect. He succeeded in his challenge against the eldest disciple of Sword Peak with his foundation establishment cultivation. He won over his companion and shocked the entire sect. But on the second day after their wedding, he divorced the woman again. It was a huge controversy. Currently, Zifan and Mo Fuchu had already become the representatives of the Heavenly Thunder Peak. They were both personal disciples, and Mo Fuchu was even a core candidate. Xing Hongxuan had been cultivating at Main Peak. So, she wasn't very famous. Alright, it's time for me to go back and cultivate. I'll try to accompany you on the road of cultivation for a bit longer. Chang Weihao playfully smiled and then left. Hanj sighed. Although Chang Weihao was joking, Hanj felt sad when he heard her words. Hanj was someone who wanted to live forever. Chang Weiao's talent was far inferior to his, so she definitely wouldn't live as long as him. However, Hanj wasn't a pretentious person and quickly adjusted his mentality. If he had the ability in the future, he could also help those close to him. For example, fairies Ixuan, Chang Weihao, and Xing Hongxuan. Should Mozi be included? Hanj pondered silently. He suddenly raised his right hand and used his finger as a sword to write two words on the stone wall across him. Elder Iron. He stood up and bowed at the name. It was a late farewell. Hopefully, Elder Iron will be reborn in a good family. After that, Hanj continued to meditate and cultivate. It had been another 10 years. Hanj's fire and water cultivation potentials had reached the 9th and 7th levels of the Golden Core Realm, respectively. He was only left with earth and wood cultivation potentials. This speed was already amazing, but he was somewhat dissatisfied. He began to rummage through his little universe belt to check the medicinal pills left behind by Chen Santan. Chen Santan was also a golden core cultivator. Perhaps he had golden core cultivation pills. Unfortunately, this brat's medicinal pills were mostly poison, aphrodisiacs, and all sorts of despicable drugs. As expected of a fucking member of the cult, Hanj couldn't help but curse. Chapter 29. Slaughter of 5th level Nascent Soul Realm Cultivator, Soul Formation Realm Cultivator in the cult. Without the aid of pills, Hanj could only continue cultivating with great difficulty. Even so, he was getting closer and closer to the Nascent Soul Realm. 2 years later, his water cultivation potential had finally reached the 9th level of the Golden Core Realm. Hanj began cultivating his wood cultivation potential. Lines of words suddenly appeared in front of him. Congratulations on reaching 100 years old. You have unlocked the simulation trial function. Simulation trial. You can set your opponent's cultivation level and level of strength to simulate a battle. You can also detect all living beings within a radius of 100 miles and simulate a battle with them. The result of the battle will not affect the physical and mental state of the opponent. The number of times you activate this function is unlimited. Simulation trial. It can even detect living beings within a radius of 50 kilometers. Hanj was first stunned, then pleasantly surprised. This is an overpowered function. Hanj didn't know how strong he was. He could finally give it a try now. He immediately activated the simulation trial function and closed his eyes. He came to a dark space. You can choose a character in interpersonal relationships to be your opponent. Hanj immediately chose Li Qingcai. He wanted to see the difference in strength between him and the sect master. Soon, Li Qingcai appeared in front of him. This Li Qingcai was expressionless and looked like a puppet. The battle began. Li Qingcai took out a golden ruler and attacked Hanj. Hanj took out the Kylin sword and used the 7 illusionary steps to distance himself from him. He quickly executed the 3 pure shadow sword technique, causing 3 sword shadows to appear out of thin air and shoot towards Li Qingcai. Li Qingcai quickly waved his ruler, dispersed the sword shadows, and chased after him. Hanj raised his hand and struck out with the 9 dragons devil expelling seal. The 6 attributes of spirit energy kept changing, and the 9 dragons devil expelling seal collided with Li Qingcai. Initially, Li Qingcai was still able to break the 9 dragons devil expelling seal, but he was quickly sent flying. Hanj raised his eyebrows. It seemed like his 9 dragons devil expelling seal was very powerful. No wonder it could suppress the great grand elder's essence soul. However, The Nine Dragons Devil Expelling Seal didn't hurt Li Qingzai. He would always launch his attack again immediately after. Hanj wasn't in a hurry. He was already very satisfied to be on par with Li Qingzai. The battle lasted for 10 minutes before Hanj lost. Li Qingzai's heavenly constellation golden body was extremely powerful. When spells hit him, it didn't cause any substantial damage. However, Hanj discovered that using the Kylin sword to execute the 3 pure shadow sword technique would make his attack more damaging. It could break through Li Qingzai's heavenly constellation golden body and cause him to bleed. As expected of an unparalleled sword. However, he would only be able to break through the defense, not claim victory. He then lowered Li Qingzai's cultivation. 7th level of the nascent soul realm. He still couldn't win. 6th level of the nascent soul realm. A draw. 5th level of the nascent soul realm. He slaughtered Li Qingzai. Hanju activated the Kylin sword and executed the 3 pure shadow sword technique. The 3 sword shadows tore Li Qingzai's body apart. Not bad, not bad. To kill a cultivator 5 levels above me is up to standard considering my cultivation technique, cultivation potential, sword technique, and unparalleled sword potential. Hanj thought silently. Subsequently, he lowered Li Qingzai's cultivation level to the 9th level of the golden core realm and realized that his spirit energy far exceeded Li Qingzai's. The power of the 6 paths of reincarnation technique was evident. Cultivating all 6 types of cultivation potentials gave an abundant pool of spirit energy. He could instantly kill Li Qingzai of the same cultivation level as him without using the Kylin sword. When his consciousness returned to reality, Hanj opened his eyes. I can kill a 5th level nascent soul realm expert now. When I break through to the nascent soul realm, wouldn't I be able to compete with a soul formation realm cultivator? Hanj thought excitedly, but then shook his head. The strength of a soul formation realm cultivator was definitely vastly different from that of a nascent soul realm cultivator. He couldn't let his imagination wild, or else he might fail. I have to think that I can't beat a soul formation realm cultivator. That's the only way to be cautious. Hanj warned himself silently. Only wood and earth cultivation potentials left. Hanj was full of fighting spirit. He felt that he would be able to cultivate both to the 9th level of the golden core realm within 10 years. As more and more cultivation potentials reached the 9th level of the golden core realm, the cultivation speed of the remaining ones became faster and faster. 10 years was enough for him to cultivate the 2 remaining potentials to the 9th level. 10 years went by quickly. Hanj didn't leave the cave abode even half a step. He practically cultivated the entire time. He had successfully cultivated all his cultivation potentials to the 9th level of the golden core realm. Next, he would begin cultivation to perfection. Hanj was pleasantly surprised to discover that he could actually absorb 6 types of spirit chi at the same time. It was something new. Can it be that the 9th level of the golden core realm is a threshold? Hanj soon discovered that absorbing 6 types of spirit chi at the same time wasn't too slow for his cultivation speed. Overall, it was faster than before. Good news. Hanj was confident and continued to cultivate. Half a year later, all his cultivation potentials had reached perfection. He could finally cultivate his nascent soul. Hanj didn't relax. He started to prepare for the tribulation transcendence. He established a barrier covering the entire connate cave abode. Jade Pure Sect, main peak. Inside the hall, Li Qingzai sat at the end of the table. The elders of the 18 peaks were gathered. Besides them, there were several other elders. Everyone's expression was very grave. Heavenly Thunder Peak's old immortal Taoist Thunder's expression was really pale. He gritted his teeth and asked, "Is this true?" Li Qingzai sighed and said, "It's absolutely true. Duan Tongshan had just transcended tribulation a month ago. He's now consolidating his cultivation. He's already a soul formation realm almighty. Soul formation realm. Everyone was scared out of their mind. It was as if a mountain was pressing down on them, making it hard for them to breathe. Even Fairy's Yuan didn't look good. Where's Master? Hasn't he already cultivated his essence soul? Is he already close to the soul formation realm? Taoist Jinxie hurriedly asked. Li Qingzai sighed and said, "No, His essence soul is only a mystical power. He seemed to have suffered some kind of blow previously and gave up on it decades ago. He's still cultivating bitterly now. Although he's already at the 9th level of the nascent soul realm, there's still an insurmountable gap between him and the soul formation realm. The hall fell into deathly silence. Everyone was stressed. An elder couldn't help but ask, "Then, what should we do?" "Ask for help." Li Qingzai sighed and said, "I've already sent a letter to other orthodox sects asking for help. I haven't received any reply yet." The elders began to discuss amongst themselves. Soul formation realm. Even if all of us joined forces, we still might not be able to defeat him. Other than Duan Tongshan, there are many nascent soul cultivators in the viridescent nether cult. Sigh. Who would know that the god-owned cult would produce a soul formation realm cultivator? Our end has come. We definitely won't be able to win in a direct confrontation. Why don't we escape? How are we going to escape? Where are we going to escape to? Are we going to abandon our centuries of establishment? The elders were all talking at once, and their tone was very bad. No one could speak calmly in the face of such a crisis. Li Qingzai sighed, his face full of worry. Guang. The bell rang on Jade Serene Peak. All the disciples gathered in front of the main door of the Jade Serene Hall. After entering the hall, the disciples found mats to sit on. Fairy Zhiguan glanced around and frowned slightly. Hanj didn't come again. Forget it. All the disciples looked at Fairy Zhiguan. There was no nervousness nor anticipation. They thought it was about the upcoming inner sect assessment. From the latest information, the cult leader of the viridescent nether cult, Duan Tongshan, has already reached the soul formation realm. If there are no accidents, the cult will launch a large-scale invasion against us in a few years. Fairy Zhiguan's expression was indifferent as she spoke. The disciples were stunned for a moment before exploding. Soul formation realm. Impossible. Do we have soul formation cultivators? Of course not. Soul formation realm only exists in the legends. It's over. No wonder the cult is becoming more rampant lately. Chapter 30, Mystical Power. Heavenly Punishment Ghost Deity Sword. Fairy Zhiguan raised her hand, signaling the disciples to be quiet. The disciples quickly quietened down and looked at her nervously. The emergence of a soul formation realm cultivator in the cult was definitely a catastrophe for the Jade Pure sect. Even if they have a soul formation realm cultivator, we still have to fight. Jade Pure sect has been established for almost 1,000 years. How can it be destroyed by the cult? I don't usually ask you all to contribute to the sect, but since the sect is in trouble, all of you must be prepared to fight. From today onwards, all of you are not allowed to leave the Jade Pure sect. Focus on your cultivation and prepare for the battle. Fairy Zhiguan swept her gaze over everyone as she spoke. The strong aura of a nascent soul cultivator erupted, enveloping the entire hall. The disciples felt a chill in their hearts. Even though they were afraid, they didn't dare to show it. As matters stood, there was no other way. They had all dealt with the cult before and knew that the consequences of surrendering would be worse. Inside the connate cave abode, thunder rumbled. Hanj was transcending the tribulation. Under the barrier's enclosure, the sound and aura of the heavenly thunder did not leak out. This heavenly tribulation was different from the ones he encountered before. The lightning transformed into a dragon, and it was even more destructive than before. Nevertheless, it couldn't break through the golden cicada's mystic divine robe's defense. In order to prevent the plants in the cave abode from being destroyed, Hanj used his spirit energy to protect them. Fortunately, the lightning only kept bombarding him. The cave wasn't big, but it was very high. The dark clouds blocked the hole on top. During the tribulation, Hanj had nightmares from time to time. There were all kinds of nightmares, including the death of his friends and master, as well as returning to his previous life and realizing it was all just a dream. Fortunately, Hanj had a strong will and these nightmares couldn't affect him at all. The inner evil didn't even have a chance to emerge. Nascent soul realm, I'm definitely going to break through, Hanj thought excitedly. As he continued to circulate his spirit energy according to the cultivation method, the 6 spirit energies in his body formed a vortex once again. As they gathered on his golden core, The outline of a nascent soul could be vaguely seen. He was already close to the nascent soul realm. Junior, Shang Wei's voice came from outside the cave abode. Hanj thought it was a hallucination. He had heard it before, so he didn't take it to heart. Outside the cave abode, Shang Wei called out a few times, but Hanj didn't answer. She couldn't help but frown as she muttered, "Stinky Junior, you're cultivating too seriously. The sect is in crisis, but you don't even want to come out." She thought about it and decided to stay outside the cave abode. She walked to a tree not far away and started meditating. If the viridescent nether cult attacked the Jade Pure sect from this side, Hanj would definitely be the first to face trouble. She had to protect him. Of course, with her strength, it was very difficult for her to protect him. But when Hanj woke up from his cultivation, she could tell him immediately and bring him back to the inner sect to hide. 10 days later, Hanj finally reached the nascent soul realm, and his spiritual strength soared. The 6 types of spirit energy merged into a new and powerful spirit energy. 6 paths spirit energy. A line of words appeared in front of Hanj. Congratulations on breaking through to the nascent soul realm. You will obtain a mystical power reward. You chose the path of a swordsman. Congratulations on obtaining a Sword Dao mystical power. Heavenly Punishment Ghost Deity Sword. Wow! Heavenly Punishment Ghost Deity Sword. What a dramatic name. So embarrassing. Hanj thought excitedly. He immediately began to inherit the mystical power. Although it was a mystical power, it was still a Sword Dao. It wasn't difficult for Hanj. The mystical power was different from usual magic. He would be able to use it immediately after understanding it. Practice wasn't necessary. But of course, he could still practice it if he wanted to. It would make him more proficient with it. At the same time, outside the cave abode, Shang Wei was meditating and cultivating. She was already used to cultivating nearby. She opened her eyes to look at the cave abode and muttered, "Stinky Junior, you still aren't coming out." Luckily, the cult didn't invade us. She wanted to leave many times, but she was afraid that she would miss the time when Hanj came out of seclusion. Shang Wei sighed and closed her eyes again. She liked him, after all. Maybe wait a little longer. The next day, Hanj successfully grasped the Heavenly Punishment Ghost Deity Sword. He opened his attributes panel. Name, Hanj. Lifespan, 111,998. Race, mortal. Cultivation, first level of the nascent soul realm. Technique, 6 paths of reincarnation technique, can be inherited. Magic, unparalleled finger divine sword, 7 illusionary steps, 3 pure shadow sword technique, unparalleled, 9 dragons devil expelling seal. Mystical power, 6 paths soul absorption technique, heavenly punishment ghost deity sword. Equipment, golden cicadas mystic divine robe, grade 7 numinous treasure, little universe belt, Kylin sword. Cultivation potential, spiritual physique of the 6 paths. It contains top-notch wind, fire, water, earth, wood, and thunder cultivation potentials. Increases providence to a certain extent. Connate providence is as follows: unparalleled, immortal beauty, top-notch charm. Destined Sword Fanatic, top-notch Sword Dao aptitude, top-notch Sword Dao learning ability. Unparalleled Movement Technique, top-notch movement technique aptitude. Descendant of the Immortal Emperor. After the game begins, you will receive an unparalleled cultivation technique and 1000 superior grade spirit stones. Check interpersonal relationships. His lifespan had increased greatly to 988 years. He was only at the first level of the nascent soul realm. If he reached the 9th level, he would definitely hit 1,000 years old. Awesome. Hanj smiled proudly. He wasn't planning to leave the cave abode, but to continue cultivating, when he suddenly discovered Chang Wei meditating outside. Previously, he had heard Chang Wei's voice, but he was breaking through and thought that it was an illusion. Hanj hesitated whether he should check out what was going on outside. However, he saw that Chang Wei was cultivating and there seemed to be no urgent matter. She actually wants to tap into the spirit chi in my cave abode. But all the spirit herbs in the cave abode were planted by her. So, Hanj decided to allow it continue cultivating. A year later, Shang Wei suddenly stood up and looked into the distance in fear. Thunderclouds appeared above the 18 peaks of the Jade Pure sect, surging violently and covering the sky. On the west side of the Jade Pure sect, fiendish cultivators charged out of the forest one after another. A huge army of them flew on their swords and sped towards the Jade Pure sect. Fiendish aura gathered together like a sea of darkness. The cult was here. Shang Wei immediately panicked. Instinctively, she wanted to call out to Hanj, but on second thought, the cult was attacking from the other side. Junior Han's cave was nicely out of the way. If she woke him up and brought him back to the inner sect, it might actually end up worse. Shang Wei bit her lips, before leaping onto her sword and flying towards Jade's serene peak. Inside the connate cave abode, Hanj was cultivating when a notification appeared before his eyes. Your sect, Jade Pure sect, is currently under attack by the viridescent nether cult. Hanj was stunned. He quickly reached out with his divine sense and saw the astounding scene of the cult attacking the Jade Pure sect. Why suddenly start fighting? Hanj was already a nascent soul realm expert. His strength was far greater than before, so he naturally didn't panic. But the scale of the invasion was very large. He had to be cautious. Hanj didn't go to help immediately. He activated the simulation trial function to detect everyone in Jade Pure sect and let the system search for the strongest person. Duan Tongchen, first level of the Soul Formation Realm, cult leader of the viridescent nether cult. Soul Formation Realm. Hanj shuddered. So fierce. Hanj's first reaction was to run. Jade Pure sect has no chance. Calm down. I'm no longer the same as before. I could kill nascent soul realm cultivators when I was at the golden core realm. Hanj decided to test Duan Tongchen's strength first. He wanted to see if he could deal with him with the heavenly punishment ghost deity sword. Hanj's consciousness immediately entered the trial space. The battle began. A minute later, Hanj opened his eyes. He had an awkward expression on his face. He muttered to himself, "That's it." He had underestimated himself. I have an unparalleled sword. My cultivation technique is inherited from the Immortal Emperor. I have the spiritual physique of the six paths. And I have mystical powers. I can't benchmark myself with ordinary people. Hanj stood up and prepared to head to the Jade Pure sect. The once flourishing Jade Pure sect was now in chaos. The inner sect city had been reduced to ruins and corpses were everywhere. The 18 peaks were filled with figures battling. Cao Cao, Cao Cao, come out and die. Chen Santan's master, Zhang Kunmo, floated in the air. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with rage. He was infuriated. He had been here for so long, but Cao Cao hadn't shown himself. Could he have run away? He had withheld his vengeance for decades. He was waiting for this day to avenge his beloved disciple, but he couldn't find the enemy. How frustrating. Zhang Kunmo turned his head to look at the Jade Pure sect's main peak. The lofty main peak had already been set on fire. Flames swept through the sky, creating a magnificent sight. Cult leader should be ending it soon, Zhang Kunmo muttered to himself. He could feel the aura of the Jade Pure sect elders rapidly weakening. No one in the Jade Pure sect could stop a soul formation cultivator.